Hey guys, welcome to Battle VIP Pass. Today we got a Frozen Fin featuring the old Kyurem from Evolving Skies with the Extreme Freeze attack, doing 60x damage for each water energy you discard from your Pokemon. It's basically a one-price Chien-Pao with the same attack but an extra metal cost. So how do we charge up the metal cost? We have 2 basic metal energy and also our Baxcalibur to help us attach as many water energy as we can onto our Pokemon to satisfy the attack cost and also to get as much energies into play for us to discard as many for us to do big damage with this attack for a huge knockout. So Chien-Pao obviously has the ability that allows you to search your deck for 2 water energy and put it into your hand each time you have it in the active spot and for each copy you have in play. So you basically get to switch around and retreat with your Skater's Park to keep using his ability to search for energies. We don't have that for Kyurem though. We need our Bibarel to draw and also we need our supporter cards to basically get enough energies into our hand to be able to attach with our Baxcalibur using our super cool ability for us to hit enough damage for the knockout. So how do we get enough energies into play before we actually play this card? We are not intending on using this as our primary, as our first attacker. We are only using this as a finisher. Our primary attacker is Wishiwashi. So Wishiwashi is doing big damage. It has a Schooling Shot attack that does 30 more damage for each basic energy attached to its Pokemon. It also has an ability that grants itself 150 more HP if you have 3 or more energies attached to it, making it a little bit more tanky, allowing you to possibly survive 1 extra turn for you to do damage a second time or to retain the energy for it to discard with your Extreme Freeze later on for a huge knockout. We also have our Super Energy Retrieval and Rod to retrieve and cycle back our energies, with 1 Radiant Greninja for the bench snipe, helping us target any 2 of our opponent's Pokemon for 90 damage with Moonlight Shuriken, potentially giving us that extra 1 prize. If we hit a 𝑬𝒄𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄 or Comfeast on the bench, we could even target any Pokemon that has been heavily damaged by our Wishiwashi on our previous turn if they retreat to the bench. Moving on to our supporters, we're playing 2 Iono, 2 Bruno, and 2 Irida to help us search for the right cards into our hand, and also to draw a big hand for us to attach enough energies to do enough damage for the knockout. We have our regular items for the setup, and also our stadium cards to remove 𝑬𝒄𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄, which is a huge counter against our Wishiwashi, punishing our Pokemon each time we attach energies from our hand, basically knocking out this Pokemon before we even get to activate its ability for the HP boost. Finally, we have 1 boss for our power play, 1 escape rope for the switch, 1 Manaphy for the bench barrier, and 12 basic water with 2 basic metal energies. So that's all for the deck list. Now let's go for some gameplay and see how well this deck works. Okay, let's go for our first game versus Arceus Duraludon. Trinity Nova for GMX Pulverization. So Duraludon cuts through Mimikyu. It cuts through any effects of attacks, abilities that reduce damage. Duraludon has also the Skyscraper ability that blocks off special energies, Pokemon with special energies from doing any damage. So if you play like Gardevoir with Reversal, you're not doing extra damage, you're not doing any damage at all with that special energy attached. Unless if you have Path to the Peak. Or the Cologne. Cologne is sometimes better than Path for a Duraludon counter because it actually helps you target other Pokemons as well. Cards like Manaphy, if you do a boss on a Manaphy, you can do a bench snipe. But normally people go for damage counters to deal with Manaphy. They normally play abilities or effects of attacks that place damage counter with Radiant Alakazam to basically, deal with the Manaphy with Lost City to help them do a bench snipe on the next turn. If they use an ability like Double Gunner from Inteleon VMAX, they could actually finish off Manaphy in a single turn and then play Medicham to get an extra turn for them to hit the bench a second time. So spreading like crazy with Urshifu Inteleon is actually a really crazy strategy. Very powerful against the meta. Because it works against Comfy, Lost Box, it works against EX decks, it works against anything, really. Only problem is you need to evolve multiple VMAXs though, and if they knock out a VMAX, they get 3 prizes, so that's the bad thing, I guess. We have EXs now, which is the better deal, I guess. It's kind of like V-Star. If you knock it out, you get, you only lose. If you get knocked out, you lose 2 prizes, and you can quite easily come back later with cards like Iono, Reversal, stuff like that. Not many comeback cards though, is there? Radiant Charizard, Shaymin V-Star, Galarian Moltres, blah blah blah. Anyways, getting back to the game, they actually have an Umbreon as well. They're playing Arceus Duraludon with Umbreon VMAX. So Umbreon obviously allows them a free boss. I would rather play Leafeon though. Because playing 2 VMAXs, having 2 VMAX in play is very risky. If you have a V-Star and a VMAX, you're forcing your opponent to do 3 knockouts just to win the game, to draw all 6 prizes. If they kill your Umbreon with a boss after you evolve it, then all they need is to deal with the Duraludon and they win the game. So double VMAX knockout wins the game. If they have a Seal Stone as well, they can kill a V-Star for 3 prize and then knock out the Duraludon for the remaining 3 prize, winning the game with only 2 knockouts. Anyways, they have a Cramorant apparently. I think they're playing Colress's Experiment for the draw support, and if they have 4 cards in the Lost Zone, if they play like Lost Vacuum as well, it would be quite easy for them to basically have 4 cards in the Lost Zone to play Cramorant to attack early. If they have 4 Colress and a couple Lost Vacuums with with some loose stadiums, obviously Duraludon VMAX decks need stadium cards just because they need to block off, remove Path to the Peak to be able to use Starbirth, to be able to keep Skyscraper active. They need some way of taking out the stadium card. So Lost Vacuum is actually perfect for that. Maybe 1 or 2 copies just to support Cramorant. If they can attack on the first turn before evolving the Arceus, that would actually secure them the knockout against a VMAX or even a Stage 2 EX on their next turn with Trinity Nova. Right? It's actually quite a smart strategy. If you have like 4 Colress to guarantee you the first turn lost, if you can lost 2 cards on your very first turn going second, then you can actually attack with a Lost Vacuum, which is quite a tall order still. It's actually quite difficult to pull it off without Comfy, because you need the Lost Vacuum. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait for your next turn before you're actually able to play Cramorant to attack. And on your next turn, you should really be playing Trinity Nova to get enough energies for Duraludon. You want to be playing Arceus V-Star to attack on your as early as you can to be able to set up Duraludon and have it in the active spot as early as possible. Because that's what we want. That's the main priority for Arceus Duraludon decks. That is the MVP. So if you don't attack on your first turn with Cramorant, there is just no point. If you can't do that, I feel like there's no point adding a Cramorant in the deck. It's just quite difficult to pull it off with a single Colress, or if you go second. If you go first, you can't play a supporter card, so you could still do your Lost Vacuum, but come on, how many Lost Vacuum can you fit into the deck? How many Lost Vacuum if you need your V-Star and the VMAX? If you're playing Umbreon as well, how many items could you fit into the deck? It would be less consistent if you have more than 1 Lost Vacuum in the deck. Because it doesn't do anything else, it just helps you lost cards. If you have like Radiant Venusaur or Kricketune V, something that allows you to draw cards into your hand, you want to be discarding or removing cards from your hand to be able to draw more. If we have a new Mew EX on the next set, Mew EX allows you, I'm not sure if it's 151, I think it's Scarlet 151, so it's actually the set after Obsidian Flames. So after that, we have our Mew EX allowing us to draw cards until we have 3 cards in our hand every single turn for each copy we have in play. And if we have Mew EX as the draw support, then Lost Vacuum would actually help us empty our hand to be able to draw more cards that we need. It's basically helping the deck add more consistency and, making it easier to play. So that would actually help out. But now that we don't have Mew EX, we have nothing but Kricketune V, which is kind of the same thing though, because they both have low HP. If your opponent does a boss, they're knocking it out anyway, so might as well just do Kricketune V. Kricketune actually has a better ability of sorts, just because if you have it in the active, you can draw up to 4 cards into your hand, but you only get to play it once, so you can't stack the ability for Mew EX. The good thing about Mew EX is that you get to stack the ability, and that means if you have 3 copies in play, you get to use the ability 3 times per turn. If you have 3 Kricketune, you can only use the ability once. That's the bad thing about Exciting Stage. Okay, here comes Bibarel. We got our Baxcalibur in play. We have another Frigibax on the bench. So the annoying thing about a Bax deck is that your opponent can quite easily boss and knock out your Baxcalibur or do an Avery to force you to discard your Frigibax. And that's the reason why we need to have so many copies, have enough copies in the deck of our Stage 2 evolution line to be able to make sure that we have it in play every single turn. If we don't have a Bax every single turn, we're done. Because after they knock out the Wishiwashi, we got no energies in play, we got no energy system, no way of attaching energies onto our Pokemon to attack, we're done. So we have to make sure we have some, we can evolve the next Baxcalibur if they somehow take it out on their turn. If they somehow do a boss or Avery, we can counter that by evolving a second Baxcalibur, immediately after they knock it out. Then we would be safe. So we have one rod, we have a lot of rare candies. It's quite easy for us to do that. We even have a stage 1 Arctibax as well. So make sure you think about the next evolution. Even though you already have a Bax on the bench, make sure you keep thinking about the next evolution. Like, we have an Ultra Ball now. We should be getting our Arctibax. I'm not sure why we didn't do that. We should be evolving the Arctibax whenever we can. I guess we're just biting for the rare candy. We don't have an Iono though. We can't draw cards on the next turn. So we should be playing the Ultra Ball. So here comes Duraludon, finally attacking. We're playing full-on basic energies. I actually have a Luminous for this game, I think. So funny thing about Luminous is that it actually works for the ability, but not for Wishiwashi's attack. It doesn't allow you to do 30 more damage because it's not a basic energy. It does substitute for the water though. So if you have 2 basic water and a Luminous attached to your Wishiwashi, you do get the plus 150 HP boost. If you have a Luminous attached to your Kyurem, it not only satisfies the attack cost for the metal energy, it also allows you to discard the Luminous for an extra 60 damage boost. So Luminous helps Kyurem, Luminous helps Wishiwashi's ability. The only reason why we have no Luminous for the final build is because it doesn't actually help you do more damage with your schooling shot. And we want to be attacking with Wishiwashi first, and that's why we can't afford to have any special energy in the deck. If they play Temple of Sinnoh, we have so many stadium cards to remove it, so we don't really need to be worried about Temple of Sinnoh or any other special energy counters. The main reason we don't have it is just because it's not helping Wishiwashi do more damage. It's really fun though if you play it for Kyurem, just because discarding the Luminous helps you do extra damage. If you have, for example, 1 Super Energy Retrieval and like 1 Luminous in your hand, you got 300 damage in the game. Right? If you have a basic metal with the Super Energy Retrieval, all you got is 4 discards, and that's only 240 damage. So that's the good thing about Luminous for Kyurem. But eventually, just because we want to be making the deck a lot more Wishiwashi forward, want to be focusing more on that card, just because we are attacking with it first, and that's the reason we have full basic energies. As we said, Kyurem is just a finisher though, so if we get 1 Super Energy Retrieval, we would quite likely get 2 extra energy in our hand if we draw cards with Bibarel and Bruno or Iono. So we have a lot of supporters to basically get extra cards into our hand. If we get an Irida, we can shuffle back energies with the Rod by searching for another Retrieval or Rod or something to basically help us draw back energies into our hand using our Industrious Incisor. So make sure you save 1 Super Energy Retrieval for your Kyurem at the last minute. Don't use it too early, just because we want to be using it for Extreme Freeze instead of, any other card like Wishiwashi. We can also use it for Greninja against a 1-price deck if you want. But it would be way more cooler if you use your Super Energy Retrieval for Extreme Freeze, just because that's the main intended combo for this deck. We want to be using our 1-price Chien-Pao to win games by doing huge knockouts, killing a Stage 2 EX or a VMAX with 1 hit using our 1-price Kyurem from Evolving Skies. Okay, here comes the massive knockout. Not really that massive because we did some damage on the last turn, so all we need is 3 discards right now. 3 discards is actually enough. 180 damage. Oh no, we need 4, my bad. We actually need 4 because we only did 120 with our Wishiwashi on the last turn. So if we did 150 with 4 energies using our Schooling Shot, we just need 3 discards this turn. It's kind of the same thing though, right? 3 energy on the last turn, 4 discards this turn. So we didn't exactly did a 1-hit knockout for this game, but at least we get to play Kyurem at the right time. We have a second one on the bench though, so if they knock out the active, we can play Extreme Freeze again to knock out the V-Star. What we need to think about is how do we get the last prize? Obviously, they're gonna charge up another Duraludon or play the Umbreon to attack with the VMAX. If they do that, how are we going to collect the last remaining prize? We do have one boss, one escape rope to deal with the Manaphy or something, you know, a basic V on a bench. Let's hope they don't have the second evolution for the Arceus. We may have to discard 5 water energies to deal with the V-Star. Or even more if they evolve the second Duraludon. So Escape Rope may not help us for this game. Unless if they don't get the evolution. So Escape Rope can sometimes work miracles. Like you have no idea. It's almost like a free boss. If you don't need it for the Switch, it's always better to save your Escape Rope at the last minute because, you know, most times your opponent would have like a tanky Pokemon in the active just to avoid the last prize or something like that. And if you don't get the boss, you can play Irida to search for your Escape Rope, and that could actually be the win condition. So be very careful what to play. Do not waste your cards. Do not discard the wrong cards with your Ultra Ball. Do not waste any items. You have to play the right cards at the right time. And the funny thing about this game is that you never know what's the right thing to do when. Just because it's so unpredictable. You never know what cards your opponent has in their hand, what cards they have in their deck, what cards they have prized. You never really know, what exactly are they playing. So it's hard to predict sometimes, what's the right thing to do per se. But if you know what cards are good for the meta, that's usually the ones people go for when they build a deck. You should be able to approximately make the right decision when you're forced to discard things or when you're forced to, lost cards from your deck or stuff like that. It's always an approximation, but you do have to be smart about it. Obviously. Because that's the name of this game, isn't it? It's a strategy game. Okay, here comes Ultra Ball. What are we going to search for? We got way too many Iridas, so we're going to discard one. Okay, we finally got our second Bax in play. Waiting for Avery. Should not really be evolving the second one. I don't think we need to on this turn. We should always, if we have a Arctibax already on the bench, we should save the Baxcalibur in our hand. But I'm actually quite afraid though. If they knock out the Bibarel and then do an Avery on the next turn, we would actually be forced to discard the Greninja or something. Well, no, we would be forced to discard the Wishiwashi. I'm not sure actually. So if they knock out the Bibarel, we're done. So we don't have a second Bidoof on the bench. It's always better to have a security. But we do have 2 Baxcalibur though. And our supporter cards, we have 1 Bruno, so I feel like we should be fine. Okay. Do we have enough for the knockout? Pretty sure we do. Gonna Super Cold to attach 2 more energies onto our Wishiwashi. So Wishiwashi on the bench right now has only 30 HP. Make sure you only bench it when you have enough energies in your hand to attach for the HP boost for you to play its ability. If it doesn't have the ability, if you can't activate the ability, there is no point benching the Wishiwashi, especially if you know your opponent is playing a damage counter deck. If they play Tinglu EX, if they play any deck, Tinglu obviously is a perfect counter against Wishiwashi because, if it has damage counters on it, it has no ability, and that means they just need 3 damage counters on Wishiwashi to knock it out. If they play Sableye, for example, a Lost Box, you should not be benching your Wishiwashi if you know you can't attach 3 water energy on that turn. If you don't have 3 water on your Wishiwashi passing the turn against a Sableye, they can knock it out along with your Manaphy or 1 prize basics on the bench for extra prizes in a single turn. If they get 3 prize in a single turn by knocking out 2 Wishiwashi, that would be a disaster. Make sure you do not bench it at the wrong time. Please, this is a huge blunder, but the reason we're benching it is just because we know they can't knock it out though. They can't really knock it out because they are not playing Bench Knight, they don't have damage counter conditions, they're playing nothing but Arceus, Duraludon, Umbreon, and Cramorant. I don't think they should be able to kill, they shouldn't be having a multi-price strategy, and that's the reason we're benching so carelessly our Wishiwashi. Okay, here comes Umbreon. In the active, we have a boss in our hand at just the perfect time. If we did an Escape Rope, we got our Super Energy Retrieval to basically hit 240 damage on the Arceus or Duraludon because they haven't evolved either. So 240 is actually enough. If we retrieve, if they knock out the Kyurem though, If they didn't pull out our Wishiwashi with Dark Signal, we would actually be required to get more energies on the Wishiwashi to do a knockout. With the boss against the Arceus or Duraludon, or with the Escape Rope. If they didn't bench the Cramorant, we would need 7 energies on our 7 water on the Wishiwashi to be able to knock out the Arceus or Duraludon on the bench with the boss or Escape Rope. So that's the bad thing about Wishiwashi's attack. It's not really doing that much damage, is it? We may actually need to play the Rod to shuffle back the Kyurem just to play a second one. Because all we need is 4 energies, 4 water to be able to knock out the Arceus or Duraludon on bench. But it seems right now that we could actually knock out the Umbreon without even doing the boss. So we're going to draw even more cards into our hand right now. We got another water energy. Look at that. And we could even draw another 2 extra cards with Greninja by discarding the medal, because we don't need the medal anymore. This is our last turn. So if we did... if we played our Schooling Shot, we got 7 water energies, as you can see, for 420 damage using Extreme Freeze. If we attach all those 7 water onto our Wishiwashi, we could actually do a boss on the Arceus or Duraludon, even Escape Rope, to win the game by doing 240 damage with our Schooling Shot. So that's how powerful this deck is. We got a 1-price Chien-Pao, and also the Wishiwashi from Evolving Skies doing crazy mad damage at the last minute, using our Super Energy Retrieval and also Rod to retrieve back the energy with Bibarel. Okay, now on to the next game. We're up against Gardevoir now. Gardevoir EX with Mewtwo V Union, and they got Squawkabilly, Galarian Articuno V with Adventurous Discovery to discard the V Union early. If they go second, they can actually do it on the first turn, summon the V Union, and then play Gardevoir EX on the second turn to secure enough energy for them to play Side Explosion as early as possible. So placing 16 damage counters over and over is quite abusive, as you know, especially against a 1-price deck. So let's hope we get to slow them down, though. If we got our Radiant Greninja early, if we can pull off our Moonlight Shuriken to knock out 2 Ralts on the bench, that would actually be ideal. If they ignore the Radiant Greninja, because we have Baxcalibur to basically help us do the snipe on the second turn with a Rare Candy. If we got the Rare Candy, it would be great. And if we actually do the snipe on the second turn, we would be denying them the Gardevoir EX evolution, and then they would be forced to waste another turn just to bench another 2 Ralts, or another Ralts with a Manaphy, something like that. That's the bad thing about Gardevoir, is that you're passing 1 turn against Bax with Radiant Greninja Chien-Pao. I mean, Radiant Greninja is crazy, isn't it? It kind of demands you to play Manaphy. If you don't have the Manaphy, you're done. And they're playing Mew with Squawkabilly EX. They have Galarian Articuno V as well. So that's a lot of bench spots they're taking up. If they play the Manaphy, that would mean they have only 2 spots for the Ralts. And you kind of need at least 3 Ralts for a Gardevoir EX deck just for you to play. You actually need another free bench spot for Mewtwo as well, don't you? If you're not playing Gardevoir as your primary attacker, if you're not doing the 1-price Gardevoir to attack with Brainwave, you should be saving 1 spot free for Mewtwo on the bench. And that means you can't really be benching a second or third Ralts. So that's actually quite a bad deal, if you ask me. You don't really get to play any other draw supports, though, because you already have Kirlia and the Shining Arcana to help you draw cards. I don't think you should be needing anything else but your supporter cards. But anyways, I think I'm just gonna end the voiceover right here. Let you guys focus on the game. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. We're featuring our Kyurem, the old Kyurem from Evolving Skies, with the new Baxcalibur helping us attach energy freely from our hand, as many water energies as we want, onto our Pokemon in play, onto any one of our Pokemon, including our Dragon-type Kyurem, allowing us to do Extreme Freeze, doing the same amount of damage as Chien-Pao EX, 60x for each discarded water energy from your Pokemons in play. And we also have our Wishiwashi to do early damage. For 3 water, you get to hit 120 damage while also tanking with 180 HP on your 1-price basic. We also are playing our Bibarel, Iono, Bruno, and Irida as our draw and search supports. We have our Super Energy Retrieval and Rod to retrieve and recycle our basic energies. And as we said, you could also think about adding Luminous Energy into the deck, helping you do more damage with your Extreme Freeze since you're able to discard the Luminous, and you're also able to use it to satisfy the attack cost for your metal cost, playing your Kyurem, and you can also use it for Wishiwashi's ability. But the bad thing is you can't actually do more damage with Schooling Shot just because you're only doing 30 more damage for each basic energy attached to your Wishiwashi. So that's all for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you next time. Have a great day and bye for me, people! Enjoy life!
Soundtrack to the summer.